Something unexpected happened between Jin and Jungkook during the Toronto concert, and once you notice it, you'll want to watch the moment again. At first, it looked like just another playful moment on stage. Jin was holding his mic, Jungkook was right beside him, and the crowd was completely locked in. But then Jin suddenly made a small move toward Jungkook, and Jungkook's reaction made the entire moment feel completely different. The cameras caught their expressions, their gestures, and that brief exchange from a much closer angle. It happened so quickly that you might miss the most interesting detail. And this is why the full FANCAM is worth watching until the end. Because what happened between Jin and Jungkook next was the moment Toronto Army couldn't stop talking about. The Toronto moment fans could not stop watching. The Toronto concert already had the kind of atmosphere that made every small movement on stage feel important. Thousands of fans were watching closely, light sticks filled the venue, and every camera angle seemed to capture another detail. But among all the movement happening around them, one particular moment between Jin and Jungkook quietly became the scene that demanded a second look. At first glance, nothing appeared unusual. Jin and Jungkook were simply together on stage, surrounded by the energy of the concert. Both were holding microphones, both appeared relaxed, and the crowd behind them created a sea of lights that made the entire scene feel almost cinematic. Yet when the footage is watched carefully, their interaction begins to feel much more interesting than it initially appeared. The reason is not one dramatic action. It is the sequence of small details. Jin appears focused on Jungkook while Jungkook remains close beside him. Their body language creates a subtle sense of awareness between them, almost as though each person knows exactly where the other is without needing to make a large gesture. That kind of natural coordination is easy to overlook when watching a concert from a distance, but a full FANCAM can reveal details that disappear during a quick stage cut. And this is where the moment becomes worth watching again. The camera captures Jin looking toward Jungkook while both remain in the same part of the stage. Their expressions are noticeably softer than the intensity of the performance around them. Instead of looking like two performers simply sharing the same space, the moment carries a quiet familiarity that immediately draws attention. For fans watching the footage frame by frame, the smallest movement becomes part of the story. Jungkook raises his hand while Jin remains nearby. The gesture itself may appear simple, but the timing makes it stand out. Jin notices the movement, and the two seem briefly connected through their expressions and body language. There is no need for a dramatic interaction to make the scene memorable. Sometimes the smallest exchanges are the ones fans remember most. What makes this particular moment even more compelling is how naturally it happens. There is no obvious preparation. There is no sense that the two are deliberately creating a major moment for the cameras. Instead, everything appears to happen organically while the concert continues around them. That natural quality is exactly what makes the footage so interesting. The audience is reacting to the performance, the stage remains active, and the atmosphere is filled with movement. Yet for a brief moment, attention shifts toward Jin and Jungkook. That shift is what makes the FANCAM so valuable. A regular concert broadcast may only show a few seconds before cutting to another member or another section of the stage. A FANCAM can preserve the surrounding context. It allows viewers to see what happened immediately before the interaction, how each member reacted during it, and what happened immediately afterward. Those extra seconds can completely change the way a moment is perceived. Before the interaction, Jin appears to be maintaining his own position on stage. Jungkook is nearby, and both continue to participate naturally in the concert. Then their attention seems to meet. The moment is brief, but the camera stays close enough for viewers to notice their expressions. That is when the atmosphere changes. Jin's expression appears calm and attentive, while Jungkook's reaction adds another layer to the scene. Neither needs to make an exaggerated gesture. Their presence beside each other is enough to make the moment feel personal. For longtime fans, this kind of interaction can be especially meaningful because Jin and Jungkook have shared countless moments throughout their years together. Their relationship has developed through performances, rehearsals, behind-the-scenes footage, interviews, travel, and countless unpredictable situations. That history can make even a few seconds on stage feel different. A simple glance can carry more weight when viewers already understand the familiarity between the two members. Still, the most interesting part of this footage may not be the first interaction at all. It is what happens after it. Once the initial moment passes, the two remain connected within the same space. Their positions shift slightly, their expressions change, and the concert continues. Nothing appears deliberately exaggerated. Yet the camera keeps capturing details that make viewers wonder whether they almost missed something. This is exactly why the full FANCAM becomes more interesting the longer it plays. The first viewing gives you the obvious moment. The second viewing reveals the smaller reactions. The third viewing makes you notice the timing. And suddenly, what looked like a simple stage interaction begins to feel like a collection of tiny moments happening almost simultaneously. One of the strongest details is the contrast between the enormous concert environment and the quiet interaction between the two members. Behind them, thousands of fans create a spectacular visual scene. Purple lights fill the background, cameras are recording, and the entire venue is alive with excitement. Yet Jin and Jungkook appear almost isolated within that massive environment. For a few seconds, their attention seems directed toward each other rather than toward the scale of the venue. That contrast gives the footage its emotional quality. It is not necessarily about a dramatic event. It is about the feeling created by two familiar people naturally sharing a moment while thousands of people are watching. The more closely the footage is examined, the more noticeable the subtle body language becomes. Jin holds his microphone while keeping his attention toward Jungkook. Jungkook's posture changes slightly as the interaction develops. Their hands move, their expressions shift, and the distance between them becomes part of the visual story. None of these details alone would necessarily become a headline. Together, however, they create a moment that feels surprisingly memorable. And that is often how viral concert moments begin. They do not always start with something huge. Sometimes they begin with a glance that lasts a second longer than expected. Sometimes it is a small gesture that happens at exactly the right moment. Sometimes it is simply two members standing beside each other and reacting naturally while the audience notices. Toronto provided the perfect environment for such a moment because the crowd was already highly engaged. Every movement on stage was being recorded from multiple angles, meaning that small interactions could quickly become part of fan discussions. The full FANCAM gives viewers something that a short clip cannot: context. Without context, a short clip can make an interaction appear isolated. With the full footage, viewers can see the atmosphere surrounding it. They can see where Jin was positioned before Jungkook moved closer. They can observe how Jungkook reacted. They can see how quickly the moment passed and how naturally both members returned to the performance. That context matters. It shows that the moment was not simply a still image designed to attract attention. It was part of a moving sequence happening during a live performance. And perhaps that is what makes the footage so fascinating. There is something uniquely powerful about seeing a candid-looking interaction unfold without obvious preparation. The audience did not need an announcement. The members did not need to stop the concert. Nothing needed to be explained. The moment existed naturally within the performance, and fans watching closely were the ones who noticed it. As the footage continues, another detail becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. Jin seems particularly aware of Jungkook's presence. That awareness is visible through his direction of attention and the timing of his reactions. Jungkook also appears comfortable remaining close to Jin, creating a sense of ease that contrasts with the enormous scale of the venue. This subtle comfort is one of the most emotionally appealing parts of the moment. The concert itself is massive. The interaction is tiny. But somehow, the tiny moment becomes the part that stays in the viewer's mind. That is the power of a good FANCAM. It allows fans to move beyond the polished structure of a concert broadcast and experience the little details that happen between planned performances. A member looking toward another member, a brief hand movement, a change in expression, a shared reaction that lasts only seconds. These details may never be the main focus of the official performance, but they can become unforgettable to the people who witness them. And Toronto had plenty of those moments. Yet this particular interaction between Jin and Jungkook stands out because of how naturally it unfolds. There is no obvious attempt to create a spectacle. Instead, the emotional impact comes from the simplicity. Jin and Jungkook are simply there together. The audience is watching. The cameras are rolling. And for a brief moment, their attention seems to narrow toward each other. That is enough. The longer viewers stay with the footage, the more they begin to appreciate why the moment caught attention in the first place. It is not just about what happened. It is about what almost went unnoticed. A quick reaction. A subtle movement. A moment of eye contact. A change in posture. A few seconds of interaction hidden inside a much larger performance. Those details are exactly what make viewers replay the footage. And once the moment is noticed, it becomes almost impossible to watch the scene the same way again. You begin looking for the exact second when Jin notices Jungkook. You watch Jungkook's reaction more carefully. You notice the position of their hands. You notice how quickly their expressions change. You notice what happens immediately afterward. The scene becomes less about one obvious action and more about the sequence surrounding it. That is why the title promises an unexpected Toronto moment rather than simply another concert clip. The surprise is not necessarily something enormous. The surprise is that such a small interaction can create such a strong reaction among viewers. And the full FANCAM allows that reaction to make sense. Instead of showing only the most dramatic few seconds, the footage lets the audience experience the build-up, the interaction, and the aftermath. The build-up creates curiosity. The interaction creates emotion. The aftermath creates the question that keeps viewers watching. Was that really all there was to the moment? Or was there another detail hidden just seconds later? That question is what keeps the footage engaging. Because once the first interaction has been noticed, viewers naturally begin searching for what comes next. The camera continues following the stage. Jin remains composed. Jungkook continues with the performance. But their earlier interaction remains in the viewer's mind. Every subsequent glance suddenly feels more significant. Every movement becomes something worth observing. And this is where the emotional side of the moment becomes strongest. Fans are not only watching two performers. They are watching two members who have shared years of experiences together, now standing side by side in front of a massive audience. There is something comforting about seeing that familiarity appear naturally